Ever wondered if quicksand is as deadly as the movies make it seem? From adventure films to suspenseful thrillers, quicksand has long been depicted as a terrifying, inescapable trap that swallows its victims whole. It's the stuff of nightmares, right? But hold on, is this really the case? Let's delve a little deeper. Quicksand in reality is a natural phenomenon, a type of soil that behaves like a liquid when disturbed. Yes, it can indeed trap you, but no, it won't swallow you whole as if you're being devoured by a monster. The movies may have gotten a bit carried away with that one. The portrayal of quicksand in film is often exaggerated for dramatic effect, but it's not entirely inaccurate. Quicksand can indeed be dangerous under certain circumstances, but it's not the instant death sentence we've been led to believe. So, if quicksand isn't the instant death trap that films suggest, what really happens when someone falls into it? To understand what happens when you fall into quicksand, first, we need to understand what quicksand is. Quicksand is a fascinating natural phenomenon. It's not a different kind of sand at all, but rather, it's ordinary sand that's been saturated with so much water that the friction between sand particles is reduced. This saturation creates a soupy mixture that can't support weight, causing anything heavy on its surface to sink. The formation of quicksand usually takes place near water bodies like rivers, beaches, marshes, and underground springs. When water can't escape because it's trapped by the surrounding sand, the sand becomes supersaturated, resulting in quicksand. Now, one of the most intriguing aspects of quicksand is its non-Newtonian nature. A non-Newtonian fluid is a substance that can behave like a solid or a liquid depending on the forces applied to it. When undisturbed, quicksand appears solid. But the moment you step on it, your weight increases the stress on the sand, causing the water in the gaps between the sand particles to be squeezed out and the sand to liquefy. This is why, if you've ever seen someone step into quicksand in a movie, they start to sink. The sand literally turns into a liquid around their feet. But the moment they stop struggling, the quicksand returns to a more solid state, causing them to become trapped. But before we terrify you with thoughts of sinking into the ground, we should note that quicksand isn't as common as you might think. It's most likely to be found near riverbanks, marshes, lake shores, near underground springs, and along coastlines. And even in these locations, conditions have to be just right for quicksand to form. So, you're not likely to encounter it on your daily walk in the park. Now that we understand what quicksand is, we can delve into what happens when someone falls into it. Imagine walking along and suddenly feeling the ground beneath you give way. You're now in quicksand, but what happens next? In the blink of an eye, your peaceful stroll turns into a struggle for survival. The sandy surface beneath your feet transforms into a thick, viscous trap, pulling you down with an unrelenting force. This is the initial sinking phase where gravity is not your friend. The weight of your body, coupled with the downward pull of gravity, causes you to sink rapidly into the quicksand. As you're sinking, you might start to panic and flail your arms and legs in an attempt to free yourself. But here's the twist: struggling can actually make the situation worse. The quicksand is a non-Newtonian fluid, which means it behaves differently under pressure. The more you struggle, the more the sand and water mixture turns into a solid-like state, increasing the difficulty of movement. So you might wonder, how deep could you sink? Would you be swallowed whole by this sandy pit? This is where buoyancy comes into play. Quicksand is denser than water, meaning an object submerged in it will experience a greater buoyant force than in water. So, even though you might sink up to your waist or chest, full submersion is highly unlikely. Here's the science behind it. The human body is less dense than quicksand, which creates an upward force that counteracts the force of gravity pulling you down. So, while you're stuck, you're not likely to completely disappear beneath the surface. But let's not sugarcoat it. Being stuck in quicksand is not a walk in the park. It's a tedious, exhausting, and potentially terrifying ordeal. Yet it's critical to remember that quicksand isn't the inescapable death trap it's often portrayed as in movies. So, while it's not a pleasant experience, falling into quicksand isn't the immediate death sentence we often see in movies. So, you've fallen into quicksand. How do you get out? The first and most important thing is to stay calm. Panic will only make you sink faster. Quicksand is a non-Newtonian fluid, meaning it becomes thicker and more viscous under stress. If you thrash around trying to escape, you'll only make it harder for yourself. Take a deep breath and lean back. This will distribute your weight more evenly, helping you float. It's a bit like lying on your back in a swimming pool. Next, slowly and gently move your legs in a circular motion. This will create a pocket of space, allowing water to flow in and loosen the sand's grip. Then, slowly bring your legs to the surface while maintaining a horizontal position. It's a slow process, but patience is key. Remember, quicksand is denser than water, so you won't sink completely if you don't panic. With the right knowledge and a calm mind, surviving quicksand is more than possible. To wrap things up, let's quickly review what we've learned today. Quicksand, often a plot device in movies, is not quite as menacing in real life. It's a mixture of sand, clay, water, and salt that behaves like a liquid when disturbed. When you step into quicksand, your weight causes you to sink, but only up to a certain point. You won't be swallowed whole as the movies would have you believe. In fact, humans are less dense than quicksand, so you're more likely to float than sink. The real danger comes from panic and exhaustion, as struggling can cause you to sink deeper. But remember, survival is possible. By staying calm and moving slowly, you can float to the surface and escape. So, the next time you see quicksand in a movie, you'll know the real story. Stay curious, stay informed, and stay safe out there.
Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video. That's all for Nifty Narrations.